I never thought opening my own front door could feel like walking into a nightmare I didn't know existed. The moment I stepped inside, my stomach flipped. My living room, my sanctuary, had been transformed into someone else's stage. Flowers were scattered across the floor, white petals glinting like tiny shards under the chandelier. Soft music played from hidden speakers, mingling with laughter and the sharp clink of glasses, like a symphony mocking me. And there she was, my daughter, standing in the center, hands trembling as she held the groom's, eyes wide and guilty. My chest tightened. My own home felt like a trap. Every glance, every sideways smile from the guests felt like a secret code I wasn't invited to decipher. My blood ran cold. I tried to move forward, to act normal, but my legs refused to obey. My hands shook so badly I could barely straighten them. "Mom, you're here!" My daughter's voice quivered, a mixture of fear and guilt. Her smile was forced, fragile, and it cut deeper than any words could. I swallowed the lump in my throat, forcing my voice out sharper than I intended. I didn't know this was happening." The groom, a man I barely recognized, bowed slightly, his practiced smile too smooth, too rehearsed. His jaw twitched for a split second, a bead of sweat glinting at his temple. Something lurked beneath the calm. I noticed. "Of course, we wanted this to be a surprise," he said, glancing at the guests as if they would back him up. "We thought it would be more special this way." Special? My mind screamed at the word. Hollow. Deceptive. I caught the maid of honor's quick look, darting eyes that begged me not to explode. Even the landlord, who had popped in earlier, stood stiffly near the corner, keys twisting nervously in his hands. I wanted to scream, to pull my daughter into my arms and demand answers. But memories flashed unbidden, diaper changes, late-night talks about dreams and boys, every small moment now tinged with betrayal. "Mom, please," she whispered, her voice trembling. I forced a nod, masking the fury and panic coiling in my chest. I just... My words faltered. "How do you confront a betrayal you never saw coming?" The groom's hand brushed hers, subtle and controlled, a gesture meant to reassure, but I saw the calculation behind it. My pulse hammered. Every instinct screamed, this wasn't just a wedding, this was a trap. The room's chatter faded as my eyes scanned the faces. Guests shifted uncomfortably, noticing my silence. Whispers bounced like echoes of accusation. I could feel the weight of exclusion pressing down, suffocating. I forced myself to breathe, think, don't explode. Not yet. But every instinct told me the truth. I'd been deliberately left out, manipulated into being the outsider in my own home. The realization burned hotter than anger. It was betrayal wrapped in celebration, sugar-coated and cruel. I took a careful step forward, my hands shaking slightly, hiding the tremor behind the flap of my coat. "Who planned this?" I asked quietly, letting the words carry over the room like a subtle balm. The groom's smile didn't falter. My daughter looked away, biting her lip. The whispers died down, replaced with tense silence. And then, across the room, I caught my eldest daughter's face. The one look that said everything words couldn't. Fear. Guilt. Something darker. I froze. My heart pounding, I realized, this wasn't just a wedding. This was a carefully orchestrated act, and I had been deliberately excluded. I wasn't ready for what came next, but it was coming, whether I liked it or not. I never expected that walking into my own living room would make my chest tighten and my hands tremble like this. Shock slammed into me first, sharp and raw, twisting my stomach. My eyes darted around the room. The laughter, the polite chatter, the clinking glasses, all of it felt like a performance I hadn't been cast in. Memories of raising her, of late-night talks, shared secrets, and small joys flooded back violently. Every trust one had placed in her now felt like a fragile glass, shattered without warning. I tried to steady myself, forcing a smile as I greeted distant relatives and neighbors. "Hello, nice to see everyone," I managed, my voice sounding alien even to my own ears. But under the forced politeness, anger bubbled, hot, silent, and suffocating. How could she have kept this from me? Every glance between the maid of honor and the groom felt like a silent accusation. The groom's overly polite bow, the nervous twitch of the landlord, even the way the floral arrangements seemed staged to perfection, all screamed secrets I wasn't meant to know yet. I moved closer to her, trying to read her expression. Her eyes flicked to mine for a brief moment, and quickly away, lips pressed together as if trying to hide fear. or guilt. My mind raced. Is she ashamed? Scared? Or is there something even darker behind this carefully constructed facade? I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but the room felt like quicksand. The more I struggled, the deeper I sank into the tension. The guests continued their polite smiles and muted chatter, oblivious to the storm raging in my chest. Every small gesture, every whisper I caught, felt loaded with unspoken truths. I noticed the groom adjusting his cufflinks, his eyes darting toward her in a way that made my skin crawl. The maid of honor offered a tight-lipped smile that didn't reach her eyes. Even the landlord's hands fidgeted with the hem of his jacket, betraying the nervous energy he tried to hide. I forced myself to take a slow breath, trying to think clearly. Logic collided with intuition, and every rational thought was drowned in a torrent of emotion. Something about this wedding didn't feel right. The tension was tangible, pressing against my ribs, making it hard to breathe. I had to find a way to understand, to unravel what had been hidden from me, without igniting a scene in front of all these people. I wanted to scream, to shake her until she spilled every secret, but instead, I smiled politely, nodding at a neighbor, my hands clenching behind my back. The betrayal wasn't just in the wedding, it was in every moment I hadn't been allowed to witness, every decision made behind my back. My heart pounded with grief, tinged with fury. And yet, amid the chaos, a thread of determination formed. I would get to the bottom of this. I had to. The room felt like a stage, and I realized I was both audience and actor in someone else's carefully scripted play. My chest ached not just with hurt, but with the burning need to uncover what lay beneath the smiles and forced politeness. Whatever secrets they were hiding, I promised myself, I would unearth them, and when I did, nothing would remain the same. What if the man smiling politely at my daughter was hiding a darkness I couldn't yet see? I stepped closer, my heart thumping against my ribs. The groom's calm smile didn't reach his eyes, which flicked away the instant our gazes met. There was something unsettling about the way he held himself, rehearsed, measured, as if every movement had been scripted. A faint familiarity tugged at my memory, but I couldn't place it. "Hello?" I said, voice steady despite the churn in my stomach. "I don't believe we've met before." He inclined his head slightly, lips curling into the same polite smile. "A pleasure," he replied, but his eyes shifted nervously toward the maid of honor, then back to the floor. Something about the way he spoke felt rehearsed, like he'd said these exact words countless times before. I tried a lighter approach. "How did you two meet?" My words sounded casual, but my mind raced. Each answer he gave seemed calculated, measured. There was a pause, a twitch of his hand, a subtle tightening of his jaw. Every small gesture screamed caution, as though he was hiding more than he revealed. Around us, the guests murmured softly, laughter rising and falling, but it felt like background noise, distant and meaningless. My eyes kept flicking to his movements, how he adjusted his cufflinks mid-conversation, the forced laugh that didn't reach his eyes, the way he leaned slightly away from me when he thought I wasn't looking. Each action was a breadcrumb, a clue that something in this facade wasn't right. I felt the urge to press harder, to confront, to demand answers right then and there, but caution held me back. My daughter stood silently beside him, hands folded, eyes darting nervously between us. Her tight grip on his arm suggested fear, or was it complicity? Doubt gnawed at me. Do I intervene now, risk shattering the fragile scene, or observe and gather more evidence before acting? "I hope we can get to know each other better," I said finally, my tone both warm and probing. He nodded, the same rehearsed smile in place. A flicker of unease passed across his face before it was smoothed away. My instincts screamed that nothing about this man was genuine. I needed to remember every detail, every subtle cue. Every hesitation, every controlled gesture was a puzzle piece. The wedding around us could be a stage, and I had just stepped into a performance far more dangerous than I realized. He was polished, polite, but every movement, every micro-expression betrayed control and calculation. I could sense that beneath the charming exterior lay intentions I could not yet name, but I vowed to uncover them. If he thought this wedding was a game, he hadn't met me, and I would play to win. What if the whispers I overheard were threads leading to a truth I wasn't ready to face? I moved slowly through the living room, eyes scanning every corner, every guest. The music and chatter continued, but it felt distorted, distant, like I was underwater. My gaze caught a misplaced invitation lying near the flower arrangements. The date didn't match anything I remembered discussing with my daughter. My stomach churned. I leaned slightly closer to the maid of honor, pretending to adjust the decoration, and overheard her whisper. He always insisted it stay private, financial matters. Her words flickered past me, almost casual, but the tension in her tone hinted at deeper secrets. My daughter laughed at something the groom said, yet I noticed her jaw tightening with each syllable. She glanced at the doorway, eyes darting toward me, then away. Something in that small movement screamed caution, or fear. I struggled to reconcile the image of her smiling bride with the subtle panic etched into her expression. A slight cough from the landlord drew my attention. He was standing awkwardly by the bookshelf, hands fidgeting, eyes flicking between my daughter and me. I couldn't read his expression entirely, but the tension in his shoulders and the nervous shift of weight suggested knowledge he wasn't sharing. Each glance, each whispered conversation added another layer of uncertainty. I began piecing together fragments. A past disagreement with the groom, perhaps over money, maybe family secrets. My mind raced. Had he coerced her? Was someone manipulating this wedding for gain? I noted the deliberate positioning of the guests, the careful smiles, the controlled laughter. Everything felt staged, rehearsed, a carefully constructed facade hiding the reality beneath. My pulse quickened as suspicion settled like a stone in my chest. Every movement, every expression seemed a code to decipher. The room's warmth and laughter felt like smoke masking a fire I couldn't yet see. Each tiny clue, an offhand comment, a fleeting glance, a nervous tick, pulled me deeper into a maze of uncertainty. Every whispered word, every misaligned glance, every controlled gesture was a piece of the puzzle. The wedding, joyous on the surface, was a labyrinth of secrets and manipulation. I could sense the danger, the hidden currents beneath the celebration. I vowed to follow these threads, unravel the deception, and uncover the truth, even if it meant confronting the darkness head-on. I never expected that pulling her aside would make my heart feel heavier than any anger I'd known. I grabbed her arm gently, leading her to the quieter corner by the staircase. My hands trembled, though I tried to hide it. Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice barely controlled, wavering between accusation and pleading. She flinched, eyes dropping to the floor. I wanted to, I thought." Her words faltered, fragments escaping her lips like leaves in the wind, never forming a full sentence. I searched her face for any clarity. Her lips quivered, but her eyes avoided mine. The fear in her gaze was unmistakable. "You're scared," I said softly, more to myself than to her. "Ashamed, or are you protecting someone?" It's complicated," she whispered, twisting her fingers nervously. "I didn't want to hurt anyone, especially you." My chest tightened. I wanted to scream, to shake the truth out of her, but the trembling in my hands reminded me to hold back. "Do you trust me?" I asked. The words felt small, almost ridiculous in the suffocating tension of the room. She nodded hesitantly, but her eyes betrayed the doubt. I do," she said, voice breaking. "But I couldn't tell you everything." I took a step closer, lowering my voice to a near whisper. "We promised each other honesty. We've always been honest, haven't we?" She swallowed hard, glancing toward the guests, then back at me. Her body tensed as if bracing for something. "I know. I wanted to protect you, and me." The fragmentary confession was enough to send my mind spinning. Protection, secrecy, fear, layers stacked on layers, each hiding something I was desperate to uncover. My heart ached with the dual weight of love and suspicion. I paused, taking a deep breath, trying to steady the storm inside me. Could I demand the full truth now, risking her retreating further into silence? Or should I tread carefully, hoping she would unfold it willingly? Every second of hesitation felt like a lifetime. Her lips quivered again, and I noticed the faintest nod, the almost imperceptible tightening of her jaw, and the tremor in her fingers. Each micro-expression was a message, a piece of a puzzle I had yet to solve. The room's background hum, the laughter, clinking glasses, faded into insignificance. Only her fear mattered. I realized then that the truth wasn't simply hidden. It was layered beneath fear, protection, and a fragile trust one had nurtured for years. Confronting her wasn't about accusations. It was about peeling back each layer without breaking the bond we shared. I needed patience, observation, and the courage to endure the suspense, because every hesitation, every micro-expression, was a clue to the secret she carried in her heart. I couldn't shake the feeling that everyone here was playing a part in a story I hadn't been invited to read. I started observing him from across the room, keeping my distance while pretending to adjust my dress. The groom's calm smile didn't reach his eyes. They darted, calculating, searching. Every laugh he forced seemed rehearsed, every hand extended slightly too long. I caught a flicker of a smirk as he spoke with the maid of honor, a subtle dominance that set my nerves on edge. Guests milled about, chatting politely, but my focus narrowed. I overheard snippets, whispers of debts, disputes over property, mentions of old family grudges. The words were casual, almost offhand, but the tension in voices was palpable. My stomach clenched. This wasn't just a wedding, it felt like a chessboard, and my daughter was the queen in play. He moved past me, hand brushing mine with a lightness that felt deliberate, testing my reaction. "Everything okay?" he asked, his tone casual, but the look in his eyes said otherwise. I stiffened, letting my gaze meet his for a moment too long. He blinked, smiled, then moved on, leaving me unsettled. I scanned the room for anyone else who might notice his patterns. The landlord lingered near the corner, his eyes flicking toward us like he was measuring the scene. A nervous twitch at the corner of his mouth betrayed anxiety. Either he knew more than he should or feared what might come. I imagined scenarios in my head. Was this orchestrated for financial gain? A family feud disguised as a celebration? Revenge hidden beneath the fragrant bouquets and cheerful music? Every possibility spiraled in my mind, intensifying my anger and my fear for her. I wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but something restrained me. Patience was a weapon here. Any wrong move could trigger disaster. I had to gather information discreetly, watch closely, and ensure my daughter's safety above all. His gestures, crossing arms with a slight lean, tilting his head while speaking, a hand subtly resting on her shoulder, revealed more than words ever could. He was practiced, careful, yet just arrogant enough to underestimate me. Every movement screamed intention, but the exact motive remained buried. The hum of conversation faded around me. The laughter, the music, the clinking of glasses, all became background noise to the sharp edge of suspicion slicing through my mind. I clenched my fists at my sides, hard hammering, aware that the next steps I took could change everything. I realized that observing him was only the beginning. Understanding the hidden agenda required patience, vigilance, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Every gesture, every smirk, every whispered word was a thread in a tapestry I needed to unravel. Protecting my daughter meant navigating this web of deception carefully, but the closer I got, the more dangerous the truth seemed to become. The chessboard was set, and I had to learn the rules before the first checkmate landed. I didn't know where to start, but I knew I couldn't wait. Every second felt like a trap closing in. I began quietly, almost invisibly, sifting through the fragments of her life that others ignored. Texts left open on her phone, letters tucked in drawers, whispers caught between friends. Each detail added another layer to the puzzle, but the pieces didn't fit neatly. They hinted at something bigger, something deliberately hidden. The groom's past began to surface through subtle mentions, a friend recalling late-night calls, a neighbor hinting at financial troubles, the way he positioned himself in every conversation to control the narrative. I noticed patterns of manipulation, carefully timed gestures, calculated smiles. My pulse quickened. It was almost theatrical. The more I uncovered, the more it felt like the entire wedding was a stage set for a performance I hadn't been cast in. I found a small envelope beneath her bed. Inside, a note in careful handwriting hinted at secrecy and pressure. I read it twice, hard hammering. It wasn't just a personal message, it was a warning, a glimpse into the hidden forces orchestrating her actions. I had to tread carefully. Any overt move could tip them off. I interviewed friends subtly, pretending casual curiosity while listening for slips, contradictions, or unease. Some gave nothing away, others revealed more than they intended. Each reaction became a clue. The more I pieced together, the clearer my daughter's involvement became, but she still seemed trapped in a fog of fear and loyalty, unable to fully disclose what she knew. The tension built as I linked these fragments, the groom's strategic positioning, the sudden arrivals of certain guests, the cryptic messages exchanged in hushed tones. Each revelation was a door opening to another mystery, and I felt the weight of urgency pressing against my ribs. This wedding wasn't just a celebration, it was a pivot point for schemes I couldn't yet fully grasp. I reminded myself to stay patient. Impulsiveness could destroy everything. Observation, timing, and careful collection of evidence were my only weapons. Every step forward made me more aware of the stakes, and I realized that uncovering the truth wasn't just about knowledge, it was about protection, strategy, and survival. As I pieced together these fragments, I understood that gathering evidence wasn't merely detective work, it was an exercise in restraint and foresight. Each discovery deepened my understanding of the hidden forces at play, yet each one also reminded me how fragile my daughter's safety was. Patience had become as vital as vigilance, and the more I learned, the clearer it became. The wedding was a carefully orchestrated theater, and I had to remain unseen while learning the script before the final act unfolded. I didn't think I could keep my hands from shaking when I finally faced them both. The room felt smaller than it had moments ago, like the walls themselves were leaning in to witness what was about to unfold. I fixed my eyes on the groom first. His calm, practiced smile faltered slightly under my stare, a twitch at the corner of his mouth betraying tension he thought was hidden. "Why?" I asked, voice barely controlled. "Why all of this?" He chuckled softly, too soft, the kind of sound that doesn't reach the eyes. I don't know what you mean," he said, fingers drumming on the table. My gaze flicked to my daughter. Her jaw was tight, lips pressed in a thin line. She avoided my eyes, twisting her hands together as if trying to squeeze the words out of herself without actually saying them. "I know about the debts, the secrets, the manipulations," I said, pacing slowly. "I've seen your patterns, your control. You can't hide behind charm anymore." The groom's composure cracked further. His forced posture sagged for a fraction of a second, and he leaned back, hands clenched. "You don't understand," he muttered. "It's not what it looks like. Not what it looks like," I snapped. "I've read the letters, heard the conversations, seen the calculations. Everything points to you. You've been using her. Using everyone." My daughter's eyes finally met mine, glistening with fear and shame. "Mom, She started, voice trembling, but the words fractured under the weight of guilt. "I thought I was protecting you," she whispered, the confession dragging out more regret than I could bear. "I didn't know how else to handle it." I took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm inside me. "Secrets don't protect anyone," I said quietly. "They hurt, they manipulate, they destroy trust. Every omission, every lie, it's all a choice." The groom's gaze darted between us, calculating, trying to regain dominance, but the power had shifted. My daughter's fear and shame were raw, unguarded, and I realized in that moment how fragile the groom's control really was. "I wanted to believe in you," I told my daughter softly, voice breaking. "But I needed the truth. I need it now." She swallowed hard, finally releasing the torrent she'd held back. Confessions tumbled out, hidden motives, old betrayals, the ways the groom had manipulated events for personal gain. Each revelation landed like a punch in the chest. I listened, absorbing, piecing together the full tapestry of deceit. The room's atmosphere was thick, almost suffocating. The tension shifted constantly. Fear, anger, shame, and defiance collided in every glance, every twitch, every word spoken. I weighed my next move carefully. Justice versus protection, confrontation versus forgiveness. Every choice mattered. Every pause revealed intent. And then the silence hit, the moment after the storm, heavy with possibility. I knew the real challenge wasn't uncovering the truth anymore. It was deciding what to do with it. Facing the groom and my daughter had stripped everything to raw truth. I realized that confrontation wasn't about dominance. It was about illumination, revealing hidden motives and seeing people as they truly were. The emotional wreckage left behind wasn't a loss. It was a revelation. Every confession, every subtle reaction, every faltering gesture built a new understanding. The wedding, the secrecy, and the manipulation were part of a larger pattern, but now I held the clarity to act. The question wasn't just who was guilty, it was how I would protect the ones I loved while dismantling the web of deceit. I never thought relief could feel so heavy, like it pressed against my chest, refusing to let me breathe. The moment the groom's schemes fully unraveled, it was almost anticlimactic, yet each revelation carried weight, sharp and unavoidable. Friends and family gathered around my daughter, their eyes wide with shock but also fierce protective instinct. They had seen the cracks, the subtle lies, the manipulations, and now the truth could no longer hide behind polite smiles and rehearsed speeches. "You can't just," he started, fumbling with words that had always been so carefully measured, but the stares, the incredulous murmurs, stopped him mid-sentence. I trusted you, I said, voice low, calm but edged with the memory of sleepless nights and anxious pacing. And you betrayed that trust. Every step you took was calculated, and every secret you kept was for yourself, not for anyone else. My daughter's hands trembled slightly as she stepped forward, finally claiming the space she had been denied. I didn't know how to stop it, she admitted, eyes glistening. I didn't know if anyone would believe me, or if I even believed myself. But I can't let this continue. The groom's posture crumpled under the weight of collective scrutiny. Forced smiles faded, the nervous tics he had tried to hide surfaced, tight jaw, rapid blinking, fingers twisting in his lap. His control, so apparent before, had vanished like smoke. I felt a flicker of pride and relief for my daughter, the way she stood there, vulnerable yet unbroken. The wedding, once a facade of charm and deception, transformed. Conversations shifted to honesty, consent, and accountability. Where coercion had once lingered, open dialogue now filled the room. Families who had been distant or cautious now stepped in, supporting her, asking the right questions, and holding the groom accountable. We spent hours untangling what had been hidden, the tension ebbing as each truth surfaced. My anger gradually softened into a careful understanding. We had survived the manipulations, the secrecy, and the lies. My daughter, once caught in fear and confusion, now held agency over her choices, reclaiming her power with quiet determination. I feel like I can breathe again, she whispered, finally letting herself relax, shoulders dropping, the tight line of worry easing. I nodded, thinking of the lessons carved into this ordeal. Trust is fragile, secrecy can suffocate, and the bonds of family can either shield or shatter, but when nurtured with honesty, they endure. The karmic justice of the situation wasn't about punishment alone. It was about clarity, accountability, and the restoration of dignity. As evening fell, I lingered near the window, watching the golden light soften the room. The chaos had subsided, yet a reflective weight remained, a reminder that vigilance, empathy, and courage mattered as much as any victory. My daughter, once hidden behind fear, now moved with quiet confidence, a testament to growth born from adversity. I could finally allow myself to exhale, knowing justice wasn't perfect, but it was real, and for now, it was enough. Justice, I realized, isn't always swift or neat. It's messy, emotional, and demanding. Yet, in the unraveling of lies, in the exposure of manipulation, there is space for healing. My daughter's growth, our renewed trust, and the accountability we demanded from those who sought to deceive us, all of it built a new foundation. We had survived, learned, and reclaimed control. And as the sun dipped low, painting the room with gentle light, I felt the quiet satisfaction that comes not from vengeance alone, but from truth, courage, and love prevailing. I never imagined silence could be so loud. The house is empty now, echoing with the absence of frantic whispers, slammed doors, and the tremors of panic that had filled every corner just hours ago. I sit in the living room, the soft hum of the ceiling fan above the only sound keeping me company. Relief settles unevenly in my chest, heavy with the weight of everything that happened. I close my eyes and remember the fear, my daughter's trembling hands, the groom's sly smirks, the way deception had crept into smiles and polite words. Betrayal had worn a friendly face, and I had almost missed it. My own reactions replay like a film I can't pause. The sudden rush of anger, the moments of doubt, the instinct to protect versus the urge to punish. Each choice, each hesitation, had shaped the outcome we now lived with. I think of my daughter. She stands taller in my memory, more grounded, more certain. The ordeal had forced her to confront shadows she didn't deserve to face, yet she emerged with quiet strength. I see her decisions clearly now, the courage to speak up, to reclaim control, to step into her own agency. And I realize something crucial. Sometimes love means letting go of the impulse to fix everything, letting someone find their own power even amid chaos. The house, once filled with tension, now feels like a sanctuary, but one with invisible scars. I trace the edges of memories, the anxious pacing in the kitchen, whispered warnings exchanged in the hallway, the subtle power plays that revealed true intentions. Every corner holds a lesson, every silence a question. What would have happened if I had acted differently? If I had missed a single clue? If trust had failed completely? We spent hours untangling what had been hidden, the tension ebbing as each truth surfaced. My anger gradually softened into a careful understanding. We had survived the manipulations, the secrecy, and the lies. My daughter, once caught in fear and confusion, now held agency over her choices, reclaiming her power with quiet determination. I feel like I can breathe again, she whispered, finally letting herself relax, shoulders dropping, the tight line of worry easing. I nodded, thinking of the lessons carved into this ordeal. Trust is fragile, secrecy can suffocate, and the bonds of family can either shield or shatter, but when nurtured with honesty, they endure. The karmic justice of the situation wasn't about punishment alone. It was about clarity, accountability, and the restoration of dignity. As evening fell, I lingered near the window, watching the golden light soften the room. The chaos had subsided, yet a reflective weight remained, a reminder that vigilance, empathy, and courage mattered as much as any victory. My daughter, once hidden behind fear, now moved with quiet confidence, a testament to growth born from adversity. I could finally allow myself to exhale, knowing justice wasn't perfect, but it was real, and for now, it was enough. Justice, I realized, isn't always swift or neat. It's messy, emotional, and demanding. Yet, in the unraveling of lies, in the exposure of manipulation, there is space for healing. My daughter's growth, our renewed trust, and the accountability we demanded from those who sought to deceive us, all of it built a new foundation. We had survived, learned, and reclaimed control. And as the sun dipped low, painting the room with gentle light, I felt the quiet satisfaction that comes not from vengeance alone, but from truth, courage, and love prevailing. I never imagined silence could be so loud.